Jalan Tun H. Asli in Kuala Lumpur is a street with a lot of history. It has old shophouse, temples, and long-running business. But because of fast development, its heritage is at risk. This shows the need to protect and preserve the areas in a smart and long-lasting way.
Starting with the abstract, this study explores how urbanization, gentrification, and tourism have impacted the cultural and architectural identity of Jalan Tun H. Asli in Kuala Lumpur. It aims to propose adaptive strategies that support sustainable development while preserving the street's historical and cultural character. The study adopts a qualitative approach through literature reviews, international case studies, photographic comparisons, on-site observations, and informal interviews with local business owners and community members conducted through our Project 1. From these, relevant issues and strategies were identified and adapted to the context of Jalan Tun H. Asli. General findings reveal that gentrification and uncoordinated development have disrupted the street's authenticity and walkability. To address this, adaptive reuse of heritage buildings is recommended to retain architectural identity while meeting modern needs. Clear and consistent signage can reduce visual clutter, making navigation easier for visitors. Enhancing pedestrian infrastructure such as widening sidewalks or introducing evening pedestrian-only hours can improve walkability and safety, especially during peak times. Improving infrastructure respectfully, such as relocating wiring underground and using soft ambient lighting in traditional style fixtures, can enhance the visual appeal without disturbing heritage elements. These upgrades improve overall comfort and atmosphere for users. Cultural signage and historical markers can provide educational value and strengthen the sense of place for both locals and tourists. Community-based initiatives such as local training in heritage skills and financial support for restoration efforts ensure participation and long-term stewardship. Introducing street functions like night markets or local craft stalls can support the economy while promoting cultural heritage. These recommendations suggest that strategies such as adaptive reuse, regulated signage, and public realm improvements identified in international case studies could be adapted to Jalan Tun H. Asli through a more community-oriented and culturally sensitive approach. This research aims to inspire thoughtful planning that balances modernization with conservation while enhancing user experience. It encourages the government and stakeholders to implement stricter renovation guidelines, similar to those in Malacca, and engage shop owners in preserving the street's identity. Through thoughtful planning, Jalan Tun H. Asli can remain a vibrant, authentic, and user-friendly heritage corridor for the future.
This is the issue that we had in Jalan Tun H. Asli. Firstly, loss of heritage building. Building face demolition and implementation of modern buildings. Materials such as aluminum windows, LED lights, leading to inconsistent on heritage conservation. Number 2, depletion of culture. Due to gentrification, being replaced by the modern business or even by the global change, the local identity are slowly fading away due to westernized influence and commercial branding. Number 3, Jalan Tun H. Asli is a historically rich but highly active urban street where inconsistent pedestrian infrastructure such as narrow walking way, uneven surface, and obstacles negatively affects walking comfort and accessibility, especially for the elderly, disabled, and tourists.
From the 3 issues that we identified, we came up with 3 different keywords, which is authentic, vibrant, and user-friendly, to develop 6 research questions to guide our investigation on Jalan Tun H. Asli. So starting with authentic, we came up with how can the functionality of the street support the craft economy while preventing gentrification? And the second one is how can the street's layout and design strike a balance between tourism and local businesses? And for vibrant, we came up with in what ways can future developments respect and preserve the heritage facades in the area? And next is how can different street functions such as walking, traffic, and business coexist without causing conflict? Lastly, for user-friendliness, we came up with how does the pedestrian character of Jalan Tun H. Asli affect walkability, ease of access, and inclusivity for all users? For the 6th question, we came up with how can modern infrastructure be integrated in a user-friendly way without compromising the street's historical architecture? So for the first question under authentic, how can the functionality of the street support the craft economy while preventing gentrification? As an example from Singapore Chinatown, the Singapore's Urban Redevelopment Authority actually declared Chinatown as a conservation area protecting over 3,000 shophouses, which could be applied to Jalan Tun H. Asli. How, you may ask? They can lift rent control laws just like how the Singapore Urban Redevelopment Authority did and also enforce strict restoration rules, such as they have to preserve the 5-foot ways, timber windows, columns, and clay tile roofs of the building to maintain its original character. Next is also having control over shop house uses, which means that only a certain trades were allowed on that street. So only traditional trades like Chinese medicine stalls, kopitiams, or like those fabric shops are allowed on that street. Moreover, no unapproved renovations can occur, so plans must go through DBKL heritage officers before any projects proceeds. Besides that, under question 1, there's a problem where older artisans may struggle to afford full units of the shop houses. So what's the solution? The artisans can co-rent the conserved shop houses, just like a concept of a shared mall booth, where in the shop houses, the front part of the shop house could be owned by one tenant and the back part of the shop house could be rented by another tenant, and the upstairs, and vice versa. Not only that, it also ensures that every single floor is filled with unique cultural experiences. And with this solution, it's actually already happening in places like Tai Kwun in Hong Kong and also Rang in Hankasturi. Lastly, local authorities can actually also set up a rent fundraiser scheme where they set up a rental top-up fund to support heritage-linked artisans, such as the artisans can pay 1,500 RM a month and the government may pay half of the other amount. And how may they get these funds? They can actually take inspiration from like Think City, UNESCO, international NGOs, or even set up a crowdfunding campaign where they can allow the public people to actually sponsor the rent for the artisans.
How can the street layout and design strike a balance between tourism and local businesses? In Kyoto's Gion district, broad main streets manage the tourist flows, while the hidden back streets protect the local life. Mixed zones allow small businesses alongside private homes, whereas pure residential areas stay commercial free. Next, in Venice, the streets host local markets by day, however they can transform into tourist night markets as well, so this dual use keeps the local commerce alive while embracing tourism. How can we apply these lessons to Jalan Tun HSD? From Kyoto, we can recognize the street as a heritage preservation zone, so we can reinforce regulations of architecture through architectural facade rules and building heights. Secondly, we can use mixed-use zoning with heritage prioritization, so this allows building to serve both local and tourist needs and controls the type of commercial activity, whether it be traditional trade or cultural tourism. Thirdly, we can preserve streetscape and public realm, so this enforces design guidelines for signage as well as outdoor seating, lighting, and paving to reflect the heritage. Lastly, we can take the lessons from Venice through installing retractable bollards at key junctions to allow deliveries and local vehicles access early mornings, as well as fully pedestrianize the street during tourist peak hours, so this keep evenings partially open for local and night businesses. Secondly, hierarchical street layouts. So we can designate the street as a primary pedestrian priority corridor, especially the stretch between Central Market to Guandi Temple. Thirdly, we can disperse tourist activity into multiple nodes. Once we identify many attraction nodes along the street, such as Guandi Temple, the heritage cafes, art installations, and such, we can install signage and heritage trails linking these nodes so that tourist flows spread out rather than clustering only near the Central Market.
Based on the research question of in what ways could future farm respect the conservation of heritage facade in the area. To understand how Jalan Tun HSD can evolve without losing its identity, we turn to two key case studies, which is the Hang Kasturi building and also the Majestic Hotel, which is both located in Kuala Lumpur. These examples show how adaptive reuse and sensitive design can protect heritage while also meeting modern needs. So first, let's look at the Hang Kasturi building case study. The Hang Kasturi building is a colonial era structure located just off Jalan Hang Kasturi. It's currently undergoing adaptive reuse with a focus on retaining architectural authenticity while upgrading for safety and functionality. The conservation strategy begins with structural reinforcement, preserving the facade, load-bearing walls, and also foundations. Next, modern utilities like electrical and plumbing are updated using non-intrusive methods to avoid damaging the heritage surfaces. Lastly, sustainable materials are introduced, but only if they match the building's traditional look and also feel. For the next case study, we are going to look at the Majestic Hotel. The Majestic Hotel is built in 1932 and later declared a National Heritage Site. After years of closure, it reopened in 2012 following a major restoration that blended the old with the new. The key strategies included complete restoration of the Art Deco facade, a new tower block added at the back but at a lower elevation and visually detached to protect the prominence of the historic front. Lastly, all new systems such as HVAC, wiring, plumbing were hidden with concealed zones, and interior details like mosaic tiles and columns were either restored or recreated. Based on the previous case study, the lesson that we can apply to Jalan Tun HSD is that we need to preserve the facade integrity. We should strengthen rather than replace. Next, we should also hide modern systems such as the utilities should be integrated discreetly. We should also select materials more thoughtfully, matching traditional textures and finishes while possibly introducing low-carbon alternatives. Moreover, future development doesn't have to copy the past to be respectful. Instead, we can use a complementary contrast, preserving the rhythm and scale of heritage buildings while making new additions clearly legible. New forms should be secondary, not overpowering. Maintain a clear separation between old and new, and we should also follow examples like the Majestic Hotel, where modern additions respect and highlights the original facade.
How can different street function, such as walking, traffic, business, coexisting on Jalan Tun HSD without conflict? Key coexisting strategies and justification. Firstly, pedestrian-centric design strategy. Within sidewalk, improve pavement condition and add shaded path using canopy or by footways. Justification. Wider and safer walkway boost walking and tourism and business visibility while supporting public health and SDG 11 and 12. Number 2. Traffic management and calming measures. Strategy. Implement one-way traffic, speed control, speed bump, raising crossing. Time-restricted vehicle access, justification, common traffic and time-restricted improve safety, air quality and walkability, creating a more livable, flexible space for business and people. Number 3, vendor and business integration strategy. Allocate designated space for vendor and outdoor seating using modular stores and zoning regulation. Justification, keep sideway clear and visual orderly, ensuring access for all, supporting inclusive growth. Number 4, heritage-sensitive upgrades. Strategy, hiding wiring underground, use coordinate signage, retain facade rhythm, respect scale and materials for older building. Justification, this upgrade reduce cultured preserve heritage and enhance appeal, sustaining the street culture identity and long-term value. Number 5, share space and time-based zoning. Strategy, introduce share street design with clear surface cues. Apply time-based car-free period. Justification, share space and time-based zoning allow flexible and low-cost use without clashes benefiting both traffic and business. Case study, Armenian Street in Georgetown, Penang. Example of multifunctional coexisting within a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The strategy, pedestrian during busy hours, coordinate store placement and mural-based place branding. Time-regulated delivery access for local traders. Justification, preserve the area heritage while enhancing tourism and business activity. Armenia Street is both economically productive and socially inclusive. Application to Jalan Tun HS Lee. Pedestrian-only evenings for events and dining. Removable bowlers and mobile furniture. Standardized vendor setup to minimize clutter. Incentive for business to join beautification and local branding effort. Public art and culture features to reflect identity. Flexible use zone for weekend pop-up and culture event. Collaboration with BKL and Heritage Agency for low-impact upgrades such as tiles, signage, and lighting. Create a joint task force to monitor and improve street using collaboratively.
How does the pedestrian character of Jalan Tun HS Lee affect walkability, ease of access, and inclusivity for all users? Case study, Seoul's Bukchon Hanok Village, South Korea. Bukchon Hanok Village in Seoul preserves heritage and walkability by prioritizing pedestrians, making it both inclusive and tourist-friendly. So what is their strategy? Roads became pedestrian-only at set hours to reduce vehicle dominance. They have wide accessible pavements with ramps and tactile paths. Simple multilingual signage preserving visual harmony. They also have benches and shaded areas for pedestrian comfort. And lastly, zoning and timed entry to manage tourist flow peacefully. Pedestrian character, walking comfort, access, and inclusivity. Jalan Tun HS Lee has pedestrian potential but poor conditions. Aging infrastructure and commercial encroachment reduce safety and accessibility, especially for vulnerable users. Issues include narrow, uneven walkways and cluttered 5-footways, lack of ramps or tactile paving, limiting accessibility, overhead wiring and poor lighting, which makes it unsafe at night, few seats or shaded rest stops, discomfort for some pedestrians, and lastly, traffic prioritized, with limited crossings or buffers. So what are the applications to Jalan Tun HS Lee? Firstly, pedestrian-only hours on evenings or weekends for safer walkable streets. Next, widen walkways with heritage-friendly and even services. Add ramps, tactile paving, and handrails for accessibility. Install shaded benches for rest and comfort. Use subtle inclusive wayfinding, such as braille or color-coded signs. Relocate wiring and declutter paths to improve safety and aesthetics. And lastly, encourage clear frontage zones to keep 5-footways walkable.
How can modern infrastructure be made in a user-friendly way without compromising the street's historic architecture? One of the case study in Pinjiang Road, Suzhou, China. This road, dating back over 800 years to the Song Dynasty, is known for its white walls, black tile roof, and stone path along canals. It is the city's best preserved historic and cultural street, now actively restored and maintained. The material and method they use is wooden beams and lattice windows by reusing or recreating using native Chinese cedar, while the local artisans craft intricate patterns based on old designs. Besides, they also use grey bricks and black tiles, which locally sourced and hand-fired using the traditional kilns, which allowed them to match back with the original architecture palettes. Last but not least, they use lime plaster white walls to avoid cements to prevent damage to the Asian walls. In result, the UNESCO recognized Pinjiang as an exemplary conservation zone. The tourism increased, yet the street retained its authentic and live-in atmosphere. It also helped revive dying local arts and became a model for other historic preservation projects in China and East Asia, while some of the method can be implemented to improve Jalan Tun HS Lee. Using stones or clay brick paving to reflect heritage and enhance walkability. Expanding walkways and put some natural material, street furniture as in like woods, stones, or bamboo to match back the heritage facade.
This conceptual framework highlights the three key challenges on Jalan Tun H.S. Lee: gentrification, limited functionality, and poor conservation. Gentrification has replaced traditional shops with commercial chains, reducing opportunities for local artisans. The street also suffers from narrow, uneven walkways that limit accessibility and create conflict between pedestrians and traffic. Conservation efforts are weak, with modern renovations that clash with the area's heritage. To address this, we propose several solutions. First, support cultural events like night markets to boost the local economy. Second, encourage community involvement through heritage training. Third, improve walkability with wider sidewalks and pedestrian-only hours. Fourth, reuse heritage buildings for modern needs without altering their identity. And lastly, upgrade infrastructure sensitively, such as using soft lighting and underground wiring. These steps aim to preserve the street's identity while making it more vibrant and user-friendly.
In conclusion, this study stresses the needs to balance the development with heritage conservation on Jalan Tun H.S. Lee. Urbanization and tourism have altered this character, but thoughtful strategies like adaptive reuse, pedestrian-friendly upgrades, and community-driven effort can protect its cultural identity. Sustaining the street heritage requires collaborative among the authorities, stakeholders, and locals to ensure it remains a vibrant, inclusive, and